Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've listened to the first team. Now we have our second team for the final round of the MAI Bangkok Business Challenge at SASIN 2015. Please, on stage, please welcome Team New Hope Ecotech from Kellogg School of Management, United States of America. So just to remind you, the team, you have 30 minutes to make your presentations, and the judges can ask you questions after 5 minutes have gone. You'll get 3 time notifications, one after 5 minutes to start the interactive session, and then 2 time warnings at 3 and 1 minutes before the end. Okay? You ready?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so we'll start the clock as soon as you start. Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm ready. Sawadee ka. I'm Luciana, and this is Tiago. We are co-founders of New Hope Ecotech. Before I go ahead and explain the value proposition of our company, it's very important that I also explain the complex recycling chain in developing countries like Brazil, where we are from, or even Thailand. So what happens is that manufacturers sell their products to consumers. That is easy. Consumers do not necessarily know what happens to the packaging that they put out. What happens is that waste pickers pick the waste in the street, in condominiums, or in landfills, and then that waste goes to a long chain of small aggregators, larger aggregators, all the way into the recycling facility, who is actually the actor processing the materials and bringing it back to the chain as a raw material. That independent chain is actually responsible for 90% of the recycling in developing countries like Brazil. And I would like to introduce you guys to some of the actors in this chain. Francisco is coming, Antonio, and Maria. Francisco is a waste picker in Brazil. We met him in São Paulo during our research. He is a hardworking guy. He works up to 14 hours, and he is very entrepreneurial, as many of the students that you guys are going to meet here, but he was not able to leave the poverty trap. For you guys to have an idea, he makes $3 a day picking waste. Francisco is one of the almost 1 million Brazilians picking waste in urban areas and small towns. In the entire world, according to the World Bank, up to 2% of the population depend on waste to survive. We also met Antonio. Antonio is the guy to whom Francisco sells the materials. He's a small aggregator. Antonio taught us that the level of income is not the only problem in this industry. They also suffer from the changes in fluctuation in the income because the price of the material are actually prices of commodities. Tiago and I, we started our entrepreneurial path with the goal of trying to bring an honest wage for this honest effort. And we believe that Franciscos and Antonios of the world have a chance, they have a new hope. And this hope in Brazil specifically would come in the form of a new regulation. In Brazil, last year, a new regulation was issued. It's called the First National Solid Waste Policy. What this law says is that manufacturers have to be responsible for reverse logistics to collect the packaging that is in the street that they sold to the market. That means that they have liabilities. The government set recycling targets, and in case they don't obey, they have to pay penalties. That means that now the manufacturers are the ones who have to pay the bill for the recycling in Brazil. So you guys remember Maria from that slide? Maria, for example, is a manager in a big manufacturing, think P&G or Unilever. She is a very successful person, but she does not necessarily know how recycling is made, and she has this big challenge in her mind now. So she has a couple of options ahead. She can pay to play, which is do nothing and wait until the government charges the fees. She can build an entire reverse logistics chain just for her company, but that is probably more expensive than paying the government's fees. Or she can make donations to the current recycling industry. But as you can imagine, none of these options are at the same time cost efficient, traceable, and inclusive. What if we can connect Maria with with Antonios and Franciscos who are already offering this service? This way, Francisco's and Antonio's can finally be paid for the service that they offer to society. We think we can, and we can do that through bringing technology to an industry that up to now has been underserved. So the way New Hope would fit is that we would ask the players of this industry to input the data of the materials they sell. So we would trace the data from the recycler all the way to the small collectors and waste pickers. With this data, we issue a reverse logistic credits very similar to carbon credits. And the money that we collect from selling the certificates to the manufacturers, the money is then distributed back down the chain to every actor that participated in the recycling. That way, we can finally offer Maria a solution that is cost-efficient, traceable, and inclusive. But not only that, this only helps with the company respecting the law. That also is important for the company in their CSR opportunities and
Excuse me,
sorry.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We're going interactive. To me, the success of this hinges very much on that value chain, if you wish, that you have explained to us, and in essence, the ability of engaging Francisco and Antonio, I think mostly actually. I think for you, with your background, etc., to engage Maria is much, much easier. The other one sounds a little more tricky, and also that's where the volume is. You need to engage hundreds or thousands of people. Yeah. Could you explain a little bit to me again about Francisco? So he makes $3 a day. So I would venture that it's a little bit misleading to say that he's finally being paid. He's already paid, otherwise he wouldn't be doing it. But he could maybe make more. Could you explain to me how you're going to engage him? How is this going to practically, or low-tech, how is this going to benefit him? And what steps are you taking so you don't, with the right intentions, end up disrupting an already existing value chain, which, for all intents and purposes, is very important to these people?
So that's a nice question. So to answer that, we have to give a little context that Antonio's and Francisco's and the whole chain of this recycling chain, they are paid only by the materials they provide. They are never paid by the service. And they do this amazing service for society. They collect, they recycle, they sort. So that's the way that the reverse logistics credits, the way for finally paying them for the service. So how we are going to engage with this underprivileged population? So that's, I think it's a part of your second question. So these pictures, they are real people. So we have been doing our human-centered design research, and we have designed a whole software and an interface that's very, which interface is very human-centered. So we have some pictures here.
You might be losing me a little bit there. I don't think software and interface is what I'm looking for when we're talking about Francisco.
Oh, incentives. Is that
You're
one?
talking about incentives?
I'm talking about sort of much more low-tech stuff. How are you going to make him interested? How exactly is he going to be paid more than he is today? How are you going to make sure you're not disrupting, let's say, for example, his very, the relationship he already has with the maids in the houses from where he's collecting these things, and probably also paying them a little bit because they're collecting it on behalf of the houses. I believe it's the exact same in Thailand.
So we believe that they, because they earn so little with the material, but they have to do it in order to make a living, we would be inserting a new layer of income that comes from manufacturers. So we believe they would be more than willing to participate, because that represents, according to our math, from 20 to 100% more income to them. We honestly believe, and that's what Tiago was saying, we've been doing this research for almost 2 years now, since we started our MBA. And we spoke to small aggregators. They don't have any technology. No one provided a software for them to manage the products that they sell, as big companies already have. So one, we've tested that they would need a system just for help them with the management of their company. Plus, when we mentioned, we were not so open about this because we are still testing the concept with companies that would pay for the service. But when we mentioned, would you be even more willing to put the data if you knew that a revenue would come in form as a payment from a manufacturer? We tested that with over 100 small aggregators and waste pickers that were more
Excuse me.
educated and could understand.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
just to follow on that and try to keep your answer as short as possible?
Oh, sure.
The question I have is you talked about how he's going to be paid not just for before he was paid for the weight of what he was able to do.
Sure.
But can you explain how is that going to be different? So you said he works 14 hours a day. Let's say he goes out on one day and he doesn't get anything for whatever reason. He comes back. You're telling me he's going to be paid for that?
No. We are inserting a layer, as I said. He's not paid when he doesn't collect, unfortunately. This is still a chain that is private, and it's based on volume. And also
Can you explain what you meant by that
Sure.
when you started off with that, just to understand it?
So just follow on that line. So she said that that's still a private supply chain, and they are paid for the performance of collection. So that's very common in the private world. So they don't have a fixed income. They have a fixed. They mean that for a fixed income, I say they don't receive a fixed income every month. They receive a fixed income for weight collected, which is different when they sell the waste, because the price volatility varies a lot. So they don't know if they collect the plastic today, they're going to receive $10 for the ton. But they know because of the service, they're going to receive the service fee for that 10 tons of collection.
Okay, just to get really clear, so this layer is at Antonio's level or even a bigger aggregator. It doesn't happen at Francisco's level, right? Francisco is not involved in this trade. He hands in whatever he normally hands in, but he gets paid a little more because he's now part of a larger structure.
Yeah.
Who's going to police that Antonio pays Francisco?
No, we are actually paying directly Antonio's and Francisco's. So that's, I think that's the root of the whole thing, if you whether believe in free markets or not. So with whether distribute the service to recycler, and then we believe that recycler will roll down all these layer of revenue, or if we need a fund that will receive all the revenues and then distribute in the most efficient way that revenues in order to increase the recycling rate and create social benefit. So we've researched, there are some similar initiatives in Africa, and every time that you give all the income to the last guy of the supply chain, mostly of the time the income doesn't flow until the last guy. So all the Adam Smith invisible hand of free market allocation, efficient allocation of capital doesn't happen. So we strongly believe that we need to be this guy, and the only thing that this guy has to have to efficiently allocate capital is information, and that's our main asset here. So we are going to be the only player in the recycling industry in Brazil that's going to have information about, the market.
But to add to that question, I think there's a practicality issue, which is how to exactly know who Francisco is and how much waste he put it in the chain. I think that's also part of your question. So we know, based on our research, that some of the Franciscos do not use cell phone. Let's not even mention smartphones. So we are already testing some technologies related to SMS integration. So we would count on them to send SMS to our database so that we could verify their relationship with the first strong link that we have, which is the small aggregator that uses our system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Am I correct to presume that the large scale aggregators, the independent aggregators and waste picker, they don't pay the tax now, right? Currently, okay?
That's a very good question.
Right, okay. If that's the case, you put them into a system, do they have to pay tax? And government will know everything, right? Because you sell the waste credit.
So there are very different Franciscos and Antonios, even in Thailand, I would say.
No. You can't, because you're talking about the value chain of all the people there,
Sure.
right? You cannot say that about there are different Francisco or Antonio, right?
Yeah, I'll finish my answer. The different Franciscos and Antonios, some of them are illegal. They sell based in cash, and they never declare how much they are selling or what their income is. That's true. Some of them are formal companies, and they give receipts, and they pay tax over that. So we are counting, because we're gonna only verify the receipts that are official. So in Brazil, there's a system.
But how many good Francisco and good Antonio that pay proper tax in Brazil?
So the whole point here is the incentive of formalization. So we can, depending on the price of their certificates, there's gonna be an incentive of actually being formalized. So if the certificates are going to give a revenue that's higher than the tax break, so they will be incentivized to be formalized. And that's another intangible social benefit of this chain. It's bringing formalization within a chain that's mostly unformalized.
Yeah, my point is that if you cannot convince them, it's difficult to get the value chain working.
We know that some of them are illegal, and probably we might not convince them that it's worth to start being legal because they're going to receive the extra revenue. We're sure that
Actually,
we might not
I
be.
beg to differ. I don't quite see how they are illegal.
They are
Unless Brazil has a very different system from Thailand, for example, they don't have to pay tax. If they make only $3 a day, they don't have to pay tax.
Francisco do not pay tax, you're right. He's completely legal, but all of the rest of the chain definitely, there are players who
And
pay.
isn't that where it breaks down?
Sorry?
Isn't that where it breaks down? I think you need to clearly identify to us what's the incentive of these people to be registered in such a way further down the line.
Well,
Yeah. So besides the benefit of receiving additional revenue, which can be only financial benefit, that's a social thing. When people get formalized, they start to receive social benefits from the state. So most of these people don't have IDs or registration, or they're not formalized. So once we got them formalized into the public system, they start to have access to health benefits, public education, and so on. I see. Does that answer the question of the benefits of
Yes,
formalization?
I have the question is that in your business model, there are three parties involved: the company, the manufacturers, right? The aggregators, and also the Francisco. You generate revenue from the company, but on the other hand, you have to depend on the Francisco. And Francisco, for example, because for sure, they don't have like good standard of living. And my question is that two questions. The first question, how many Francisco that you should have in order to meet your financial statement? Second question is that, for example, because of they don't have good standard of living, half of Francisco are sick and they can't work. What could you can do?
So the first one I can answer the first one. So the first year we are going to have 90, our estimates is we are going to have 99 smaller aggregators. Each aggregator works with 10 to 12 Franciscos. So it gives like 1,000 waste speakers for the first year, and we break even the first year. So that's how the financial works. The second one?
the second one is what happens if Francisco is sick, for example.
like
how can he make
If
so
some disease occurs, and because you have to depend on Francisco in your business model, if half of them or 80% of them can't work, so you can't generate revenue, right?
Yeah, so good question. There is a point of reliability of Francisco's and Antonio's. So we are going to issue a certificate only when we have the sure path that the waste came from Francisco, Antonio, largest aggregator recycling facility, and then we can issue a certificate. So
if Francisco can't work, your business cannot run as well.
you are right. If Francisco's don't work, we don't have a business. But it's also very important that we let you know that Brazil is one of the countries with the highest recycling rates in the world for some materials. And 90% of the recycling is made by waste speakers. So therefore, even if we believe that even if half the Franciscos fall sick one day, the other half would still be able to provide so much data about what they are doing that we would be able to sell this data to the companies.
just, okay.
Let me start with a compliment, first of all. I'm impressed with the social and environmental awareness of your venture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now comes the bad part.
Oh.
I have the benefit of looking at your business plan. You have to rely on your memory.
Yeah.
Tell me how much it's going to cost you in your estimate to do the programming and how long it's going to take for your software.
So the programming is based in it's 2 developers for 2 months. It's a very low initial investment for the startup. Every month is $32,000, so the 2 months of 2 developers is $64,000.
So you remembered your numbers, but having been in the software business and having written checks for software development, I think this is just a dream that will never come about.
Yeah.
Software development always costs 3 times as much and takes 5 times as long. So when you tell me you're only going to spend $64,000 and take 2 months to develop your software, I think it lacks credibility.
You can? Good. So our team, I would like to, thank you for asking that. I would like to introduce our team. Although only 2 of us are here, it's hard to pay the tickets for everybody to come, but we have 2 developers already working on this, Andre and Anderson. They graduated from the best.
Are you paying them?
They are equity based. So one is working full time already. He's the one making the research to see the adoption rate in a focus group in São Paulo and in another city called Salvador. And the other coder, he's working part time, also helping him. So they've already started. We started the development phase. We had a first version in September, and we have a second version being tested right now. So of course, it took us a little bit longer than 2 months, but they are working part-time. If they were working full-time on this, because it's a very simple software initially, just to get traction. Sorry?
I said they always claim that they are, but
Yeah, they always claim that they. I know. I've already got used to that. They always claim that it takes shorter, but.
Can I ask about the point that Sopon made about the tax issue? And just the formalization, you know, one of the things about a person who has been a waste picker all their life is that they may look at the government or at a tax system or this thing, they never got any benefit from any of that. They're left out of the whole system. So they see, you know, politicians saying that they're going to do this and that, and they never get anything if they're living on $3 a day. So they may be very skeptical to go into this. But if you can make it worth their while in money, it may change their life. So what will their amount of money that they're going to make per day once you get operational become?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. We remember you asked that same question yesterday, and we got it prepared for you. Go ahead.
So as a triple bottom line company, New Hope Ecotech, we have a profit. We impact profit, people, and planet. And for profits, it's going to be from 20% to 100% increase in waste pickers' income. The range is big because it depends on the length of the supply chain. So the 20% when there is 5 people in the supply chain, so the recycler, 3 middlemen, and the waste picker, and the 100% is when there are 3 actors in the recycling chain. So the waste picker sells directly to the larger aggregator, and that sells directly to the recycler. So, and it's the underlying assumption is that we are sharing the benefit equally for the system.
So after a couple of years, what is he going to be making? 20 or 100%?
It depends on which supply chain he's working with. So plastics is going to make 100% more. Paper and cardboard.
And it won't change over time if he's able to increase his wage pretty quickly from $3 a day to $6 a day at 100. That's not going to fall because of more people coming in or something like that.
No, it depends on the price of their certificates that the manufacturers want us to actually give for the certificate. So
we acknowledge that. Although we are bringing a new layer of revenue, that revenue can also vary depending on our ability to sell the certificates. It's important also that we say that. Sorry?
I just have, okay, that's enough information for me
Good,
now.
thank
And the next question really is, so yeah, you know, you want $200,000. We're willing to consider $200,000. That's easy money to give you. What are we going to get? Explain us exactly what we're going to get in percentage terms of the company, but the other thing, or is it $200,000? I don't know.
Yeah,
but that the first thing, and then what is your estimate? How are you estimating the value of this company?
So that's a good question. It used to be $200,000. So just before getting the flight to come here, we closed a contract with AB InBev. So we got AB.
With who?
AB InBev. So we got the first contract. No, it's not directly the certificates concept. We came with the certificates concept. AB InBev love it. They say.
Explain the certificate concept.
The certificate concept is where we track the data and issues a certificate to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the credits.
I got it.
Okay.
The credits that we're presenting.
And so we got that idea, did our sales pitch, they love it, but we don't have the data yet. So we don't have the suppliers, but still they need software service for their recycling activities right now. So they donate $2 million to waste a year to some waste co-ops. They don't track what happens with that money. So they say, oh, there is a huge need for software information here in this industry, and then we just closed a contract with $50,000 for 1 year. And
also, as we were able to hire developers, very good developers, based on equity, we also were able to decrease a little bit the ask that we have.
How much equity?
they have 15% right now. It's 4-year vesting, 1-year cliff.
So you are saying that we invest 100,000 US and we get back 200,000, something like that?
Yeah, so you get back
in how many years?
5 years. So it's
5 years. So the IRR is
19%.
Well, that is too small because
So
if you slip it by 1 year, the IRR may be reduced by half.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing about the social concept. So
I'm talking about financial return
Sure.
right now.
We could have had a higher, if we decide to have a higher return, that means that we are giving up our concept that is to share 75% of the revenue with the chain. And that's our concept as a social impacting startup. Because there can be so many actors in the chain, and because we want to make sure that they have a more reliable type of income, that's our commitment. So we would rather not have a bigger IRR because we have that commitment.
If we look at your financial statements, what it shows is net profit of about $12 million by 2019. Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay.
that's almost the free cash flow because we don't have a lot of cash.
Okay, so let's say that's net profit at 2019, and you already have social benefit in there. That's just under the cost of goods sold. That's the money that's being paid
That's the
out.
cost.
So great, we did the social benefit right there. Now we're down to 12 million. Now let's cut it in half because maybe you couldn't hit that target. So let's say it's 6 million, and then let's say that this would be worth maybe 6 times PE. We're talking about $36 million that it would be worth on that earnings at 2019. So we bring that back to today's terms, right? And maybe this company's worth 10 million or something like that. That's the way I would look at it. And so I'm going to put in, and what was the money that I'm going to put in? 100,000? And I'm going to get what percent of the company?
So based on your calculations, 110 over 10 million, 100,000 over 10 million. So
Right, but
1%.
So I'm going to get 1% of the company, and we're going to potentially sell the company. I can say the value of it may be 10 million or something like that if I looked at all the projections. Yeah, I'm not that excited about it, but the social benefit is good.
That's the whole thing about
There's very little time left, so just so that you can talk about the stuff that's close to your heart, but also the practicalities of things. So if we have established that you can take care of the technological platform, you know your stuff, you can do that, and we've established that you have the right intentions and it is a benefit to society. Could you talk a little bit about your ability to make this work at the simplest part of the value chain? So back to Francisco, if you wish. How to pay him, how to get him engaged, that would interest me. Because obviously you don't come from the same social strata as he does, and obviously he doesn't have, as you mentioned, a phone that you can pay him with. So a little talk about how you practically will do this.
Practically, he doesn't have a smartphone, but he does have a cell phone. So
Analogic cell phone.
an analogic cell phone. So that's the way we can track his information through SMS and text. How we can pay him? We have thought about 3 ways. So the first way is prepaid debit card. It's pretty, although there is the electronic transfer, it's very hard to get to him with a prepaid debit card in the whole region, the whole country. So the second one is mobile, so mobile payment. And the third one is Francisco, he does have what we call in Brazil his public transportation card. And then we can direct transfer to his public transportation card, and then he can monetize that later. So using electronic transactions thing, never by cash. We're never gonna give him cash. It's the chain, distribution chain is pretty hard to get to him. So it's gonna be, we're a technology company, so you're gonna use technology.
We are also
He has
considering-
the phone or you buy the phone. Is that a business expense?
No, he has the phone.
He has the phone.
It's
And-
his personal phone number.
We are also considering some models that would actually bring him the actual outcome, social outcome. For example, we would count on the last link, who is Antonio, to provide him with help for education for the kids, or even help with the food that he needs to pay a month. So we have one of our partners. He has a lot of experience on that.
I'm afraid I have to cut you off there. Sorry, time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, team New Hope Ecotech from Kellogg School of Management.
Radhika.
Thank
ขอบ
you.
คุณค่ะ
So we're going to take another short break, and we'll come back with ISP Inc. from Chinese University of Hong Kong.
คุณผู้ชมคะผ่านพ้นไปแล้วนะคะสำหรับอีกหนึ่งแผนธุรกิจนะคะนั่นก็คือ New Hope Ecotech Kellogg School of Management นะคะจากสหรัฐอเมริกาด้วยโอ้โหแผนธุรกิจนี้ต้องบอกว่าถือว่าเป็นนวัตกรรมของโลกเลยหรือเปล่าคะคุณแพรคะ
แปลว่าใช่ค่ะเป็นนวัตกรรมของระบบการทิ้งขยะและการเก็บขยะค่ะ
ค่ะนั่นก็คือเริ่มมาจากในบราซิลนะคะต้องบอกว่าธุรกิจนี้คือธุรกิจคนเก็บขยะมีมากเหลือเกินในบราซิลอย่างนี้ถูกไหมคะจึงมีนวัตกรรมที่จะพยายามสร้างรายได้ให้กับคนกลุ่มนี้คือคนเก็บขยะเยอะแต่ว่ารายได้ต่ำมาก3เหรียญต่อวันเท่านั้นเองแล้วก็ทำงานหนักมากก็คือ14ชั่วโมงต่อวันเลยนะคะแล้วมองความเป็นไปได้ของธุรกิจแล้วนวัตกรรมนี้แค่ไหนอะคะ
ค่ะก็อย่างแรกเลยนะคะทีมนี้น่าสนใจเพราะว่าเขามาจาก Kellogg นะคะที่อยู่ที่ชิคาโกแต่ว่าเป็นคนบราซิลแล้วเขาทำแผนธุรกิจที่เกี่ยวกับบราซิลประเทศของเขานะคะซึ่งบราซิลก็คล้ายๆกับเมืองไทยมากเลยนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องอาหารนิสัยคนภูมิอากาศในหลายๆภาคของบราซิลนะคะแล้วก็เรื่องขยะก็คล้ายๆบ้านเรานะคะซึ่งพวกคนเก็บขยะและซาเล้งเนี่ยตอนนี้เขาได้เงินแค่วันละไม่เกิน100 บาทคือน้อยมากเลยนะคะที่จริงซาเล้งบ้านเราอาจจะรวยกว่าด้วยซ้ำนะคะเพราะแล้วเขามีคนเยอะมากด้วยแล้วอันนี้เป็นแผนธุรกิจอันเด่นเลยของ competition นี้ของการแข่งขันวันนี้นะคะค่ะแล้วแปลว่าความเป็นไปได้ก็คือแปลว่ามันเป็นไปได้อยู่แล้วเพียงแต่ว่าคิดว่าทีมนี้เขาทำนวัตกรรมใน2เรื่องด้วยกันก็คือ1ก็คือเรื่องระบบขยะทั้งหมดของประเทศเลยและทำซอฟต์แวร์ด้วยคือต้องพัฒนาโปรแกรมขึ้นมาเพื่อที่จะเก็บ Data หรือเก็บข้อมูลที่จะแชร์กันระหว่างคนเก็บขยะและผู้ผลิตค่ะ
ค่ะแล้วมันจะเกิดขึ้นได้จริงมากน้อยแค่ไหนหมายถึง Certificate หรือว่าประกาศนียบัตรที่จะให้นะคะมองว่าจะทำให้ธุรกิจนี้คือต่อยอดให้เติบโตไปได้ยังไงอะคะในมุมมองของผู้ผลิตเอง
ค่ะก็ที่จริงแนวคิดนี้คล้ายๆกับคาร์บอนเครดิตนะคะคาร์บอนเครดิตก็คือเหมือนกับว่าคนที่ผลิตของออกมาแล้วก็มีมลภาวะออกไปเนี่ยแล้วเขาไม่สามารถที่จะลดมลภาวะของเขาได้เนี่ยนะคะเขาก็จะไปซื้อคาร์บอนเครดิตซึ่งจะเอาสตังค์เนี้ยเอาไปปลูกต้นไม้หรือว่าปลูกป่าอะไรอย่างนี้ก็ได้นะคะซึ่งอันนี้เราก็เอามาเทียบกับการให้ Certificate ขยะนี้นะคะแต่ถ้าก็ยังไม่ค่อยชัดเจนเท่าไหร่ก็หวังว่าท่านกรรมการแต่ละท่านชัดเจนกว่าเราเพราะว่ามีแผนธุรกิจอยู่ข้างหน้านะคะแต่ว่าเท่าที่เขาอธิบายตะกี้นี้เรื่อง Certificate เนี่ยไม่ค่อยชัดเจนเท่าไหร่ว่าแต่ว่าที่เข้าใจก็คือเรื่องซอฟต์แวร์เนี่ยมันจะช่วยเป็นการลิงก์ระหว่างผู้ผลิตกับผู้เก็บขยะและเหมือนกับว่าเป็นคนที่เก็บขยะไปรวมกันอีกทีหนึ่งนะคะมันจะมีหลายต่อมากเลยในลูกโซ่นี้
คือเป็นทั้งเชนก็คือทั้งลูกโซ่เลยแต่ว่าสงสัยอย่างหนึ่งค่ะว่าคนเก็บขยะรายได้จะเพิ่มขึ้นได้ยังไงอะคะคุณแพร
เพราะว่าตอนนี้เขาเก็บโดยที่เขาไม่ทราบว่าผู้ผลิตต้องการวัสดุอะไรบ้างนะคะเขาเก็บอะไรไปได้ก็จะได้ตังค์เท่านั้นแต่ถ้าเขามี Data ถ้าเขารู้ข้อมูลเนี่ยว่าตอนนี้สมมติว่าbrass หรือว่าทองเหลืองทองแดงอะไรอย่างเงี้ยตอนนี้ราคาดีเขาก็จะไปเก็บด้านนั้นมากขึ้นแล้วเขาก็จัดเป็นการจัดรวมแล้วก็เอาไปขายได้ในวิธีที่มัน
มีประสิทธิภาพมากขึ้น
มีประสิทธิภาพแล้วจัดเป็นระเบียบแล้วก็ได้กำไรมากขึ้นค่ะ
ค่ะแล้วถ้าดูในเรื่องของงบการเงินนะคะหรือว่าในเรื่องของตัวเลขบ้าง profit ที่คาดหวังดูแล้วจะไม่ค่อยเยอะสักเท่าไหร่นะคะเพราะว่าจะเหมือนเป็นการคืนความสุขหรือว่าคืนสิ่งแวดล้อมที่ดีให้กับชุมชนมากกว่าอันนี้มองความสมเหตุสมผลของงบการเงินยังไงบ้างคะ
การที่เป็นแผนธุรกิจนะคะอันนี้คือเขาจะเน้นเรื่องทางสิ่งแวดล้อมและสังคมอย่างมากเลยซึ่งจริงๆแล้วแผนธุรกิจเนี่ยไม่แผนธุรกิจเพื่อสังคมเนี่ยไม่จำเป็นต้องทำกำไรน้อยนะคะแต่เพราะว่าเท่าที่แพทย์รู้สึกจากที่เขาเล่าเนี่ยเขาอยากที่จะเน้นประสิทธิภาพก่อนในปีแรกตะกี้เขาบอกว่าจะมีคนเก็บขยะที่เข้ามาอยู่ในระบบเขาเนี่ย1,000 คนนะคะเพราะว่าเขาอยากจะให้มันเวิร์กจริงๆก่อนแล้วก็ทำให้ Data มันนิ่งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
ค่ะคือลงทุน$100,000,000เลยใช่ไหมคะ
ไม่มากเลย
ไม่มากเลยแล้วก็มองว่า5 ปีคืนทุนได้ด้วย
ใช่
นะคะแต่ว่าพฤติกรรมการบริโภคนี่สิคะหรือว่าพฤติกรรมของคนเก็บขยะเหล่านี้มากเหลือเกินในบราซิลด้วยจะถือเป็นความท้าทายและความยากในระบบหรือเปล่าที่จะรวบรวมเข้ามาแล้วความรู้ความเข้าใจจะแชร์ยังไงอะคะ
ค่ะเพราะว่านี่คือเหตุผลที่เขาจะเริ่มเล็กๆแล้วก็ไม่เร็วมากค่ะแต่เพราะว่าเป็นไปได้อย่างยิ่งค่ะแล้วก็ยั่งยืนด้วยค่ะ
ก็ถือว่าเป็นอีกหนึ่งเรื่องดีๆด้วยนะคะสำหรับนวัตกรรมใหม่ๆครั้งนี้ด้วยคิดว่าเป็นต้นแบบได้เลยไหมคะสำหรับนวัตกรรมครั้งนี้
ใช่ค่ะเหมือนบ้านเรามากซึ่งอันนี้อาจจะมาเป็นของบ้านเราในวันหนึ่งด้วยถ้ามีนโยบายอย่างที่เขามีแล้วตอนนี้ค่ะ
เอาละค่ะน่าสนใจจริงๆเลยนะคะคุณผู้ชมสำหรับแนวคิดคล้ายๆกับคาร์บอนเครดิตแบบนี้นะคะคืนกำไรแล้วก็สิ่งแวดล้อมความสะอาดให้กับสังคมด้วยและที่สำคัญยกระดับแล้วก็สร้างรายได้ให้กับคนเก็บขยะที่มีอยู่มากมายเหลือเกินในบราซิล